Hello students, my name is Jasveer Singh. I am the head of Civil Engineering Department at Chandigarh Polytechnic College. In the previous videos, we have discussed that what is the importance of soil mechanics and also the physical properties of the soils, which were your chapter 1st and 2 as per your syllabus. In this video lecture, I'm going to discuss that what are the various classification system and what are the various classification of soil and how can we identify the various types of soils on the basis of its shape and size and gradation. So let's start with the PPT. I'm going to share PPT with you. So as you can see that on the first slide, the topic is solid classification and identification. Solid stands for soil in this topic. So why do we need to identify and classify the various type of soils? Because we know that the particle size and the shape and the arrangement of particles will affect the properties of the soil. We have studied already in this this thing in second chapter in the previous video. So classification systems are used to group soils according to their order of performance under given set of physical conditions. And soils which are grouped in the order performance, that is non-mandatory that they will have same order of performance if they are under same group. So therefore, number of classification systems are required. So they have been developed on the intended purpose of the system, and that is very useful for a soil engineer or a civil engineer, that he can use that different classification of systems and which will give him general guidelines in order to make use of the field experience of the other. So it's like a exchange of experience between the engineers. So in simple words, we can say that the purpose of soil classification system is to arrange various type of soils into groups, so according to their engineering properties. So if I have a classification system, for example, I have a IS classification system, I can identify the engineering properties of a soil on a for a particular group, that we will discuss in detail in the next slides, that how that can be done. So the second slide is index properties of the soil. So index properties are those properties which gives an indicative idea about the engineering property, or you can the strength properties of the soils. Like you can say that if I am identifying the shape of a particle, I know that the angular particle have better interlocking properties. So I will have an idea about the engineering property like shear strength of the soil. Like that soil will have a good shear strength, that soil will have a good bearing capacity. So in this pic, you can also see that index properties are classified into for a soil grain and a soil aggregate. So if we are considering a soil grain, then we are considering properties like specific gravity and shape and size of the particles. And if we are considering soil aggregate, then we can classify soil aggregate into two types, that can be fine aggregate and coarse aggregate. For fine aggregate, I am considering the properties like water content and consistency limits, which are also known as Atterberg limits. And for a coarse aggregate, I can consider properties like relative density and density index. So these all index properties can give me an idea about the engineering properties of the soil. So the next slide is concerned with the particle shape. So a soil particle have different shapes, may have different shape depending upon the ratio of length, can say width and thickness of a particle. So they can be classified into bulky particles. Like bulky particles can have these shapes like very angular, they may be angular, they can be subangular, they can be sub-rounded, then rounded and very rounded. So these all particle shapes are found in the case of coarser particles. And in this pic, we may see that there are two particle shapes are given. First one is a plate-like flaky particles, and the second is elongated like a hollow needle type like particles. So these particle shapes are mainly found in the cohesive soils, like fine grained soils. So if I talk about that, how that particle shape will affect the properties of a soil. So I can say that the angular particles will have more interlocking options. They will have more interlocking as compared to the rounded particles. So that the soil having more angular particles will provide me good shear strength or more good bearing capacity. In the case of flaky-like particles, I can see that they will provide a high compressibility to the fine-grained particles. If I'm talking about the rounded particles, I know that if I have, let's suppose you have a sample. Let's suppose you have a jar and you have a sample of particles which are rounded in shape. So I can see that these rounded particles will have more voids as compared to the other particles. And so, except these are not well graded. So these more voids will tend to less bearing capacity. And there will be chances of settlement also. Next is the gradation of soil. So the soil grading, that is the distribution of different sizes of individual particles within a soil sample. Like if soil sample will have like all types of material present in all size of particles in it, that soil will be known as well graded soil. And if a soil is only having only one size of particles, or you can say the approximately of one size, that soil sample is known as poorly graded. And gap graded soil is, or a soil sample is called gap graded if that soil sample has or you can say that that sample is missing only one size of soil particles. So gap graded soils are also sometimes considered as poorly graded. I'm going to give an example to explain this in a better way. Let's suppose you have a sample, and if you have only one size of particles, like particles having same size, approximately same size, that is known as poorly graded particles. Because why they call poorly graded? Because they will have more voids, and due to the more voids, that is not suitable for a construction of a foundation. And in the case of well graded soil, let's say in these particles the voids are filled between small particles of every sizes. So this soil sample will have soil particles of like every size and less voids. This soil sample will be known as well graded. And poor gap graded is that soil if I'm missing only one sizes, that will also lead to void also. So what can be the influence of you can say the gradation of the engineering properties also? As we have discussed already that if we have only one size of particles, that will lead to more voids, and the more voids will cause settlement in the future. And if we have well graded soil, that will lead to less voids and there will be less permeability also, and that will cause, you can say, less permeability will allow less water to pass through the soil. Next slide is about clay minerals. So there are mainly three types of clay minerals that we are going to discuss in this slide. First one is kyanite, second is illite, and Montmorillonite. So these three clay minerals are formed by the chemical weathering of the rocks, as the soil is also formed by the weathering. But clay minerals are mostly formed by the chemical weathering, because there are two types of weathering: physical, chemical. So clay minerals are formed by the chemical weathering, and they are always have size less than 2 micron. So this symbol denotes micron, and 1 micron is equal to 10 raised to power minus 3 m. So we can imagine that how small that clay mineral will be, that we cannot see that with naked eye. We need special instrument like electron microscope or like X-ray differential techniques to to see the molecular structure of these clay minerals. And kyanite minerals are mostly found in the sedimentary and residual soils, or found by the sedimentary or residual soils, and lights are mostly found, or you can say found by the chemical weathering of the stiff clays and shales, and also they are found in the post-glacial marine and lacustrine soft clay sill deposits. Lacustrine and marine deposits we have already discussed in the first chapter, that marine deposits are those deposits which are transported by the water and deposited in the ocean, and the lacustrine deposits are the same, and but they are deposited in the lakes. And Montmorillon, in the case of Montmorillonite, the which is the dominant clay mineral, which is found in the some clays and shales, and also in the residual soils which are derived from the volcanic ash. So this slide shows the structure of a kyanite clay mineral. As we can see that this is basically repeating layers of the one silica sheet and one alumina sheet. As you can see that Al represent the alumina sheet and Si represent the silica sheet. So there is a repeating layer of silica sheet and alumina sheet, and alumina sheet is also known as gibbsite. So we can say that repeating layer of silica sheet and gibbsite sheet or alumina sheet, and between these layers, repeating layer, the bond which is bond will be made by the hydrogen. There will be a hydrogen bonds, and the combined thickness of this layer will be 7.2 angstrom. This A dot represent 1 angstrom. And 1 angstrom is equal to 10 raised to power minus 10 mm. Sorry, Nick. So these pics show the structure of a kyanite, and the next slide shows the structure of Montmorillonite and illite. So in the case of Montmorillonite, there is a spacing between, you can say this SGS sheet, silica, alumina, and silica sheet, which depends upon the water available, and this combined, the bond between the combined layers will be made by the several water layers. And in the case of illite, the bond between this combined layers will be made by the potassium ions. The only difference between the Montmorillonite and the illite is the bond between these combined layers. So next slide is about particle size classification of soils. So range of the particle sizes which are encountered in every soil is very large, like from boulder, which can be dimensions over 300 mm, and they can go to a very less sizes clay particles, very less sizes clay particles which can have size like less than 2 micron, and some clay particles contain particles which are even having size less than 1 micron, and they are also known as colloids. They do not settle in water. So as you can see in this pic, Indian standard class, this is Indian standard classification system. You may see that the soil is classified into 3 groups. They can be very coarse soil, they can be either coarse soil and or fine soil. So very coarse soils are divided into 2 types. First one is the boulder, second is the cobble. So the size of boulder is more than 300 mm, and the size of cobble is lies between the 80 to 300 mm. And coarse soils are further divided into 3 types. They can be gravel. They are divided into 2 types, mainly 2 types. First can be the gravel, and second is the sand. And G is denoted. G denotes the gravel, and S stands for the sand in this particular chart. So gravel can be further divided into 2 types. They can be either coarse gravel, they can be or fine gravel. The size of coarse gravel lies between 20 to 80 mm, and the size of fine gravel lies between 4.75 mm to 20 mm. And similarly, the sand can be divided further into 3 types. Either that there can be coarse sand or medium or fine sand. So size of the coarse sand lies between the 2 mm to 4.75 mm. Size of the medium sand lies between 0.425 to 2 mm. And size of the fine sand lies between 75 micron to 0.4 to 5 mm. And Fine soil, in the last, fine soils can be further divided into silt or clay. M denotes silt and C stand for clay. And silt, size of the silt lies between 2 micron to 75 micron, and size of the clay is less than always 2 micron. So I can see that in this classification system, the soil is classified according to their particle size. And this classification is used in India. So next slide shows the sieve analysis test for soils. So the process of separation of the given soil mass into a different, you can say different fraction of size of particles by using standard sieves is known as sieve analysis or particle sieve analysis. So these sieves are made by brass. As you can see, these sieves of different sizes, 80, 40, 20, 10, and 4.75 mm. These sieves are made of grass, and these sieves have openings. And like in the case of 80 mm sieve, the sieve will have openings of 80 mm. So the portion, what we have to do is we have to take a sample, then we have to oven dry it at a temperature of 100 degree, 5 degrees Celsius to 100 degree, 10 degrees Celsius. And after that, we have to sieve it from different sieve sizes. And for the portion, the portion of soil which will be retained on 4.75 mm sieve is termed as gravel fraction or the coarse soil fraction. And we had to perform core sieve analysis for that type of soil. And the set of sieve used for core sieve analysis are, which are shown in the pic, 80 mm, 40 mm, 20 mm, 10 and 4.75 mm. And the portion of soil which will pass through this 4.75 mm sieve, the last sieve, that is known as sand fraction, and that is subjected to fine sieve analysis. And the set of sieves used for this, or you can just see fine sieve analysis is 2 mm. You will use 10 mm, then 600 micron, then 425 micron, and 75 micron. And there are 1 or 2 more sieves which we can use in the fine sieve analysis. So the procedure for core sieve analysis is, first of all, you have to take the required quantity of the sample. You have to sieve it through 4.75 mm sieve, which will be retained on the 4.75 mm sieve. And you have to sieve the sample through the set of core sieve by hand. You don't have to use mechanical shaker for the core sieve analysis. And while sieving through each sieve, the sieve should be, you can say, shaped in such manner that the soil sample should roll in an irregular motion. You have to rotate in every direction. You have to shake it in every direction. So after that, you should be very careful that you don't have to break the individual particles while sieving, while shaking the all sieves. And then you will take the mass of the material retained on the each sieve and calculate the percentage of soil retained on each sieve, which will be based on the total mass of the sample. And in the last step, you will calculate the percentage finer from the each sieve. In the case of the fine sieve analysis, when we are taking a sample which is passed through the 4.75 mm sieve, first of all, you have to oven dry it, and then you have to sieve the sample through the rest of the sieves, which are having sizes less than 4.75 mm sieve, and then you have to again shake it in a regular motion. You can also use mechanical shaker in the case of fine sieve analysis, and then again you have to determine the percentage retained and the cumulative percent retained on the A sieve, and you will calculate the percentage finer for the A sieve. And in the last, we will make a graph between percentage finer and the particle size. On the x-axis we will take particle size, and the y-axis we will take percentage finer. And these curves are showing the different grading of the soil sample. Let's say if your curve is made like this after drawing the graph, the soil sample will be coarse grained. And if your curve is like this one, then your soil sample is gap graded. And if your curve is going smoothly, then that soil sample is well graded. And this curve shows that your soil sample is poorly graded, this one. So from this particle size analysis, I can tell that my whether my soil is well graded, whether that is poorly graded from this curve. Next is the uniformity coefficient and the coefficient of curvature. So the uniformity coefficient and the coefficient curvature are the terms which are drawn on the particle size analysis curve, which is shown in the previous slide. So this same graph is shown in the previous slide also. In will mark the D10, D30 and D60 corresponding to 10, 30 and 60% finer. What these values will help me to find out the uniformity coefficient and the coefficient of curvature. How? Coefficient of uniformity is equal to D60 upon D10 and a coefficient of curvature is equal to D30 whole square divided by D60 to D10. So the value of these will help me to find out these coefficients, which is the uniformity coefficient or the coefficient curvature. Now, what is the use of these coefficients? Why do we have to calculate it? You can say this, I can say that the value of Cu is which is greater than 4 and which lies between 4 to 6. That will classify the soil as well graded. Like if I found that my uniformity coefficient is between 4 to 6, that then means my soil is well graded. And if the Cu is less than you can say 4, it is classified as poorly graded. And or you can also call it uniformly graded. Poorly graded soils are also known as uniformly graded. And in the case of coefficient of curvature, if that lies between 1 to 3, then my soil is well graded. And for any single size soil mass, if the value of both Cu and Cc is 1, then that soil is well graded. And the next slide is relative density of the soil. So the relative density of the soil is the ratio which is shown in this relation also. I'm going directly to this relation. So ID represents the relative density. Emax is the wide ratio of cohesionless soil. Why cohesionless soil? In the second slide, when we are discussing the index property, I told you that for coarse grade aggregates, we are considering only relative density and density index. So this property, relative density, mostly or will be considered for cohesionless soils. Cohesionless soils are coarse grains. So wide ratio of cohesionless soil in looser state is Emax. E is the wide ratio in natural state, wide ratio of soil in natural state, and E minimum is the wide ratio of soil in denser state. So if I'm taking the wide ratio of a coastal soil when it is in looser state, I didn't compact that soil. So I will take that wide ratio and I will take the natural wide ratio of a soil sample which is in the field, and then I will take the wide ratio of the soil in this denser state after compacting the soil. So after taking these all values, I will calculate the relative density of a soil. So this pic shows the behavior of the soil when we are adding water into it. How water will affect the properties of the soil. So in the case of gravelly and sandy soil, if I'm adding water in it and after molding, there will be no binding between the particles because there will be no cohesion. There will be little binding, or in the case of sandy soil due to the little cohesion, but no binding in the case of gravelly soil. And in the case of silty soil and clay soil, there will be a good cohesion when I am adding water into it and I am molding it. due to the intermolecular forcing acting between the particles of the clay particles. So next slide shows the Atterberg limits. Atterberg limits are also known as consistency limits. So to check the consistency of the fine grained particles or the fine grained soil after adding water, we have to perform this test, which is based on this Atterberg limit. So fine grained soil can exist in several states, I can say, depending upon the amount of water which is added to the soil system. Because when the water is added to a dry soil or fine grained soil, each particle of the soil is covered with a film of absorbed water. So if the addition of water is continued, the thickness of water film will go on increasing. The increasing of that water film will permit the particles to slide past over one another, you can say. So this behavior of the soil is related to the amount of water which is being added to the soil. So a Swedish researcher whose name is Atterberg, this is a single word, not two words. Atterberg is the name of a person who was a Swedish researcher. He defined the various limits or the boundaries of states according to the how much amount of water is added to the fine grained soil. So these three main limits are shown in this pic, which are the liquid, plastic, and Trinkel limit. And in this pic, I can see that there is a graph showing the various limits. On the x-axis, I can say there is a water content. On the y-axis, the volume of soil is given. And the volume of soil or the soil mass is minimum when we have minimum water in it or we do not have any water in it. That stage is known as solid state. And if we are continuing to adding water in it, the second stage will be semi-solid, the third stage will be plastic, and the last stage will be liquid stage. So defining those limits in detailed manner, the liquid limit is that limit, you can say that the minimum moisture content at which soil flows upon an application of even a very small shear force. Or you can also define liquid limit that is the moisture content at which any increase in the moisture content will cause a plastic soil to behave as a liquid. So if we are talking about the definition as per laboratory test, liquid limit can be defined as the moisture content in percentage, which is required to close a distance of 0.5 inches along the bottom of a groove after 25 blows in a liquid limit device. So that we will discuss in your practical lab also, that how that test is conducted. Next slide is about plastic limit. So the plastic limit is defined as that the soil moisture content, you can say, at which in any increase in the moisture content will cause a semi-solid to become plastic. Or you can also define as if we are talking about the definition as per laboratory test, the plastic limit is that limit at which the moisture content at which a thread of soil just crumbles when it is carefully rolled into a diameter of 3 mm. As you can see in this pic, in plastic limit test, we are taking a soil sample when we are adding some water into it, and we are making a ball out of it, and we are changing that ball into a thread. If we are able to make a thread of 3 mm without breaking it, that moisture content will be known as plastic limit. Next is the shrinkage limit and the plasticity index. So shrinkage limit is that you can say the maximum water content after which reduction in water content will not cause a reduction in the volume of soil mass. And the plasticity index is simply defined as the numerical difference between liquid limit and plastic limit. You can say that the plasticity index PI is equal to liquid limit minus plastic limit. So these are some field identification tests for soils. We can perform this test in field without any equipment. So in first test is the dilatancy test. So in this test, first of all, you have to seed the soil through 40, you can say 4 to 5 micron ISC. Then you have to add some distilled water into it. You have to mix it thoroughly, and you have to prepare a small pat, small uh, ball-like shape, and you have to place that small pat against in your hand, in your open hand, and you have to shake horizontally against the other hand, and striking. You have to strike it several times during shaking. Like you have to take sample, you have to take place a sample in your hand, and you have to shake it vigorously against other hand. And after shaking it, you have to check it that if the soil shows a positive reaction, the water that appear on its surface and the surface become glossy. And then again, you have to squeeze the pat between the fingers, and as a result, the water and glossy surface can disappear. And this disappearance and appearance of water and glossy surface with shaking and squeezing is known as reaction. So if the reaction is quick, you can say that the water rises quickly to the surface and gives shiny glossy surface. The soil is silt. And if the water and the shine will disappear quickly on squeezing, the reaction is slow, and the soil is silty clay. And for the clay soil, the reaction is not, you can say, existent. And in the case of clay particles, because they are less permeable, the water will not come out after shaking your hand. Second test is toughness test. So in this test, you have to again take a sample and sieve it through 425 micron say, and you have to place it in evaporating dish, and you have to add some distilled water in it, and you have to mix it thoroughly. After that, you have to take a small amount of specimen, and you have to make a 3 mm thread out of it, and you have to fold the thread and re-roll it and reduce the water in soil, and until you are able to make a 3 mm diameter thread. The water content at this stage, when you are able to make a 3 mm diameter thread, is known as plastic limit also, and this test is known as toughness test. So how you can identify the result? So if the no cracks are developed when you are making soil thread of 3 mm diameter, then the soil is known as clay. And if you are not able to make the 3 mm soil thread diameter, then the soil is not clay. There is a existence of silty and sandy matter in clay. Next is dry strength test. In the dry strength test also, you have to again repeat the same procedure. You have to take a sample which is sieved through 425 micron sieve. You have to add some distilled water into it, and you have to make a small pat of it, and you have to dry that pat in air. You can dry it in air, or you can dry it in oven also. Then after drying, you have to crush it by your hand, or you can say by thumb or forefinger. So if the soil pat is crushed easily, so that soil sample or that pat show me that contains silt or silt mixed with fine sand. Or if the soil pat is crushed into individual particles, you have to apply, you can say you have to apply a considerable pressure to break it, then the soil is silty clay or clay of low plasticity. And the next test is dispersion test. So in this test, again, you have to take a air dried sample, and you have to disperse it in a glass containing water. You have to allow the particles to settle at the bottom. So if the particles of the soil settles between 30 seconds to less than 5 minutes, then it is recorded as a sandy soil. Or if the soil particles settle between 5 minutes to 60 minutes, then the soil recorded will be silt. However, if the soil particles remain in suspension for at least several hours, or sometimes you can say for several days, it is known as clay. Last test is wet test. So in this test, we have to take a small sample of, again, air dried air dried sample of soil, and you have to wet it by sprinkling water. Then you have to rub the wet soil with your fingers, and you have to feel the touch. So if the soil sticks to your finger and gives like soapy type of touch, it is known as it is clay soil in the maximum cases. or if it dries quickly and does not give like stick to the finger, it is silt. So in the last case, if it gives rough feeling, or you can say no sign of wetting appears, then it will be fine sand. So these all field identification tests can be performed in the field without any, you can say without any apparatus or equipment, and you can simply tell about the type of soil by performing this field identification test. So thank you. If you have any query, you can always mail me at hudccpc@gmail.in. Thank you. Thank you.